Hello, Cinsanity, and welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today we have the one and only Adam Hayes on of Team 200. He's been killing 200-inch deer before it was a more commonplace thing like you see today. Not only that, but he's the owner of the Moon Guide, and he's been following the moon his whole hunting career. We're going to talk about 200-inch deer, the moon and whitetails, and a bunch of more goodies. So what do you say we get this thing started? I'm not going to give you a spiel of a commercial on this podcast because I hate it when other people do it, so let's keep it simple. For all your fall food plot needs, our friends over at Tecomate have given us a 10% discount code for you all to use. It is Tecomate10. That's Tecomate 10. Go look it up and get whatever fall food plot products you need. I promise you won't be disappointed. So, well, everyone obviously knows Adam Hayes. Probably don't know me or Jay, even though it's our podcast, but that's all right. EHD, y'all been getting hit where you're at in Ohio?
I've been hearing a lot about it, but further down, close to the river. I know there's been some cases creeping up this way, so hopefully it doesn't get here to my farm. But yeah, it doesn't sound good, man. Terrible.
Yeah.
What river are you by?
What would be the closest river to me? Probably the Muskingum River.
Yeah. So you're central Ohio then?
Yeah, east central.
East, yeah, easy. Muskegon County, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, I'm in Licking County, just next to Muskingum.
It's up here. We're in Norgate. It's here. I mean, my buddy's found 5 or 6 dead ones on the creeks.
I got an email from a guy that said the DNR was floating the Ohio River yesterday, and they couldn't keep track of all the deer they were finding.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's how it is down. I'm missing a big one. Like, I've been missing for about 4 days. But then my buddies have been sending me pictures, and there's one like his tongue swelled out, hanging out of his mouth. I was like, that thing's dead, man. Like, it's just a matter of time.
What county?
Boone County, Kentucky. So it's the most northern county in Kentucky. So, like, from where I deer hunt, I can see Ohio and Indiana.
Why don't you just give him the real land marker?
It's the most northern point in the state.
No, the Cincinnati airport.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you fly over it.
Anytime you're flying in and out of Cincy, you're flying over Jay's deer stands.
It kind of sucks to hunt because all you hear is airplanes, but
yeah, but that's good cover noise getting in.
That's right, man. You got to look at it as the glass is half full.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to Aaron Warburton a couple weeks ago, hunting public. We spent a lot of time talking about just mentality, like keeping a positive attitude when you're hunting these things, because you pretty much have to. It'll tear you down if you're not paying attention.
Sometimes that's the biggest part of it, is just keeping a positive attitude, because it can be such a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. I mean, so like, especially for you, you've killed how many deer over 170 with a bow? Not including, like, I mean, it'll
15.
include 200s, but yeah. I mean, you've killed a good number of them. Like, what's your mentality? How do you keep that mental headspace when you're, singling out a big deer?
Sometimes it isn't the easiest thing to do, because there's so many things that can happen to deer from year to year. I tell guys all the time, there's 10 things that can happen and 9 of them are bad. So I mean, it's part of the game. You just gotta roll with it. And I mean, this is my 45th season, so I've kind of gotten used to the fact that it doesn't always go your way, and you just got to accept that and realize that things can change on a dime.
Yeah.
One minute you're as low as you can be, and the next minute you can be sky high. I mean, it can change that quick, and I've seen it happen so many times. Not only just with my career, but being involved with TV shows and a bunch of pro staff guys every year. There's always somebody that's like, in a fetal position in the corner sucking their thumb because they've missed the biggest deer of their life, and then shit just turns around on a dime. So I mean, it's just part of the game. Just got to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the bigger things I've learned singling out like a mature deer. Like I'll pass on a bunch, but just that dealing with the emotional roller coaster. Because like if you want to do that, if you want to be the guy that wants to go out, pick a single deer, and only go after that deer in a given year, you better be ready to deal with the lows.
Yeah,
because the
you're gonna
valleys
get
are
your
big.
heart broke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. That's why I like to have a couple,
Yeah.
just in case. Like, sometimes you get tired of doing chasing the same one. I want to go see a different farm, look at something a little different.
That's where I'm at with it this year. I don't know, for the last 10 years I've spent picking out a single deer and chasing it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to hunt the mature deer I think I got the best shot at killing on whatever given day it is this year, and just take a break from it for a year.
Yeah, whatever you need to do to stay positive. I mean, that's the name of the game.
Yeah. So I'm also trying to hunt Kansas and Ohio this year too, so that's part of it, because I've always had the opportunity to hunt Ohio. Ask Jay, I've hunted that farm maybe 5 days over the course of 10 years, just because there's always a giant I'm singling out on my farm, and everything gets invested in that.
Yeah, it works out well for me.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
The key in Kentucky is killing one in the first week of season, and you got a really good chance of doing it here. Like, you can kill a really big deer the first 4 or 5 days, because we're just like Ohio. You can bait. I mean, and these deer are on a summer pattern for the most part. Now, this cold front right here has got them whacked out, and got a lot of deer already. I've got several deer already shed velvet.
Yeah, have you seen that?
I've seen a couple deer already. Not my deer, but people that have posted pictures of bucks that have shed already.
Yeah, that seems awful early to me, but
well, here's a question for you. If it stays, we'll call it unseasonably cool like this, do you think that affects the way the rest of deer season plays out? Do you think any of the other phases of the whitetail deer throughout the fall kind of move up a little bit? I mean, I think it's based on daylight personally, so I don't know. I think the cool weather might get them a little bit more excited, but I don't think it's going to move anything necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make anything shift. I mean, obviously it's going to make deer more active. Weather is one of the biggest factors in increasing, daylight activity. So it'll definitely make them more active and more visible, but it's not going to shift anything. It's not going to make the rut happen any earlier or anything like that.
No, I agree with you. I think it's increased activity.
Yeah.
Which could be good and could be bad.
They got to be up moving to kill them.
Yep. Now, did you guys have a particularly harsh winter last year? So, like, for us, the whole month of January, we were covered in snow, which is, I don't know, maybe been 15, 20 years since that happened. And for the deer I've had on my farm, I was expecting to make decent jumps. They really haven't jumped that much from last year to this year. You seen the same thing?
I don't really remember it being that harsh of a winter. I mean, I shot my deer in January this past year, and it was cold, and we had some snow, but I don't remember it being really hard on the deer. Not in Ohio, anyway. Yeah. Where are you at?
I'm halfway between Lexington, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, Ohio. But
okay.
Like, we get snow, but we don't have like 9 inches of snow with a layer of ice on top of it for 3 weeks straight like we did this year.
Well, that band that this winter, it didn't hit them.
It didn't hit them.
No, I duck hunt, and I was like, oh, we're getting 9 inches of snow. Like, I mean, Michigan's got to be getting pummeled. Well, it's just like a band that ran. Where I worked in Lexington, they didn't get anything really. And then just north didn't get anything. It just ran right down the Ohio River there.
So we're the only ones that got screwed. Got it.
I mean,
I'm actually going to be hunting around Lexington this year.
Oh, nice. When are you going?
I'm going to go down opening week. I don't know if I'm going to be there for the opener, but I'm going to be down there opening week.
It should be good. Honestly, opening weekend is right about that time where they typically go off and shed their velvet, which you know as well as anyone. They'll disappear for a day or two to do that and then come back. So it's probably better to hold back and not go the first few days and just go right after when they get back on their pattern.
Right.
Early and often, I think, on the Kentucky deer. Like, get in there as soon as you can.
Yeah.
because they're just a few days away from acorns. You know what I mean? As soon as them acorns go, everything changes.
Right.
I actually hate acorns. They're hard. I'm not an acorn hunter though. You know, I'm not. They're hard to hunt. You can have a million oak trees, and there's one.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that
tree.
Yeah, one special tree.
Yeah.
I've moved the stand like 6 times, and I finally got it. I leave it there now. That's the tree. I've tried it. I didn't want it to be the tree. I didn't like where it was at, but it's the tree.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah. So let me ask you. You were killing 200-inch deer kind of before it was more, we'll call it commonplace, like it is today. What's kind of your secret sauce, your secret to success with that? Like, are you the guy that's finding them, using acorns, hunting in the timber, just deer to specific? I mean, because every deer is different, obviously. And I've heard you say it before, you can't kill 200s if you're shooting 180s. Like, that's obviously a big part of it. But I'd be interested to kind of hear what drove you to this and kind of what you figured out for your formula for success.
Well, actually, my first 200, I didn't really set out to kill a 200-inch deer. He just happened to be 200 inches by the time I killed him. I hunted him for 3 or 4 years and missed him one year. And it just so happened that year I killed him. I found him in the summer and got a little bit of velvet footage of him. And I mean, he just blew up. He went from, just a typical 9-point that was probably, a mid-60s deer to, he still had a 9-point frame, but I'm looking at him right now. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 6 kickers, and he hit that age. I think all deer have got that one year where they make a big jump, and that just happened to be the year he made the big jump. And I had done a bunch of preseason scouting. I was pretty sure I found his core area, and I'd set up on it early season, and I just waited for everything to line up. And that was kind of the light bulb year for me when it came to my whole system, I guess you would call it, that I've kind of taken bits and pieces from a lot of guys over the years that have been really successful, and kind of created my own little system that's worked for me. And it's really just been about obviously finding the deer. I mean, you're never going to kill one unless you go out and find them. They're not on every farm. And besides that, not shooting really nice deer that show up before you get your opportunity. I mean, you're not going to kill that big deer if you shoot the first really good one that comes along. So, finding them and then having the patience to wait and pass up other good deer are, 2 huge things. But when you get beyond that, I think it's really about figuring out what that deer does. It's all about finding that right place. Where is the best place to kill this deer? And then timing, waiting for the perfect time to go in, because we put so much effort into finding big deer and finding the right place to kill it. But as soon as it's deer season, everybody wants to, rush in and hunt. It's deer season and it's time to hunt. But I've just found over the years that, man, you really got to stack the deck in your favor and line up multiple factors in your favor that are going to get that deer up on its feet before you ever go in. Because I think everybody would agree the first time you hunt a stand is the best time.
100%.
Because every time you go into his area and you don't get him killed, it keeps getting tougher and tougher, because he's going to be picking up on, some scent you left behind, catching you walking out after dark, with a flashlight, or you hear something. I mean, he's going to end up patterning you. So I just try to, like I said, I try to stack the deck in my favor before I ever go in. I let other guys, pressure deer around me, and I want deer to feel as relaxed and as comfortable and as safe as possible before I ever go in, because it's really, right place at the right time. Do everything you can to find the right place, but go in at the right time, because it does you no good if you find the best place to kill that deer, but you go in at the wrong time, before everything lines up. And I think it's really, there's multiple factors that that are going to get a big deer up moving, in daylight, which they don't do very often. That's why they've gotten to be, old and big. And I'm a big believer in the moon, but it's not just that one thing. It's never just one thing. It's, for me, at very first thing is the wind. If you think about a 5, 6, 7-year-old buck, he's a survival expert. He's got it figured out. And his number one defense is his nose. Everybody knows that. So, when I quit hunting winds that were good for me and I started hunting winds that were good for the animal that I was hunting, that's when things changed a lot for me. You got to give him the wind. I mean, he's a survival expert for a reason. So flip the game on him. Give him the wind that he wants that's going to make him feel comfortable enough and safe enough to move before it gets dark. That's the key, is giving him the wind. And a lot of guys look at me kind of weird when I say, give a buck the wind. You got to find a spot along his travel pattern where you can get within bow range of him while he's using the wind to his advantage. And that's not an easy thing to do. You really got to burn some shoe leather finding that one spot where he is kind of, sometimes, it's splitting hairs with the wind direction. It really is. But to me, that's the number one thing, is the wind. And then it's a matter of a combination of, the weather and the moon, because everybody knows there's days during season where, the first cold front or right before a storm comes through or a high pressure day. I mean, there's certain days where you got to be in the stand because the weather's perfect. And the weather's going to trump everything, and deer are going to be moving, But there's also days during the season where the moon's going to do the same thing, and it's going to trump the weather. And I've seen it happen to me. I've talked to thousands of guys that have seen the same thing where, weather conditions were not favorable for a deer to be moving, especially a big mature deer. And because he had the right wind and that extra push from that gravitational pull of the moon hitting right at prime time in the evening, got that deer up moving when they really should have just stayed there in their bed until dark. I mean, I killed my biggest buck ever on a night when it was 85 degrees out and he was up 2 hours before dark, because he had the perfect wind that made him feel safe and comfortable enough to get up out of his bed and move early, and he had that extra push from the moon hitting right at prime time in the evening, that just an added little nudge. I mean, they can sense that stuff, They can sense weather fronts coming in. They can sense the barometric pressure. You can't tell me, nobody's going to convince me that they can't feel, that gravitational pull of the moon. I mean, it's strong enough to move the oceans. You're telling me a deer can't feel that?
Yeah.
So it's, some days it's the weather, some days it's the moon. You've really got to look at everything, It's like I said, it's hardly ever just one thing. I just... In 40 years, I've just come to realize that, some days it's going to be the weather that gets them up. Some days it's going to be the moon. Some days when everything lines up, when you got a perfect wind, a day when there's a weather pattern that's going to increase activity, and it happens on a red moon night. I mean, that's the perfect storm. You better be in your A spot, because it's going to get bloody on those nights when everything lines up. And that does not happen very often during hunting season. So, I mean, if you're one of those guys that just focuses on the weather, how many days during the season do you really have perfect weather conditions? Or what are you doing on those days when it's not perfect? Because there are days that you need to know of when that moon is lined up, and it doesn't matter what the weather's doing. Those deer are going to be moving early. So it's just, like I said, it's a combination of things, and you got to be able to, read the room, what's going on, what's the wind doing, what's the weather doing, what's the moon doing. And, when it comes to the moon, that's the only thing that you can predict months or years in advance, when it comes to traveling out of state, when you're trying to figure out, for work, when you want to take your vacation, or you're going to finally go on a guided hunt, or, take a trip out to Iowa or wherever you go, you can look at that weather a week, maybe 2 weeks in advance to kind of get an idea of what's going to happen. But that moon, you can look at it, months and years in advance. So that's been a huge part of my success when it comes to traveling and killing big deer out of state. But Yeah, it's just a lot of different things, but I've really found a system that really works for me, and share it with I share it with everybody that I can, because it's it works, man. It works. I got the proof hanging on the wall behind me. I don't own some great big farm that produces giant deer. I don't have thousands of acres to hunt. I hunt the same few farms every year in Ohio, Kansas, Illinois. Go up to the same area up in Alberta. I get to know these properties and know where you need to be and what the deer are doing. And anymore, it's more about trying to grow a big deer than actually finding one. But yeah, I guess I've kind of rambled on there quite a bit.
Oh, it's all good. So with the moon, what do you think it is about the gravitational pull, the red moon, that gives them that little extra nudge? Because from what I'm gathering from you, you're not saying rely solely on the moon, but you can schedule based on the moon, because that is one piece to the puzzle of conditions that will force a deer to get up early. It's that extra nudge, that extra push. But what specifically with the moon you think helps push them to get up in daylight?
I think it's that handful of days every month where that overhead or underfoot moon is hitting right at prime time in the morning or evening. 98% of your deer herd, your does, your immature bucks, fawns, they're all pretty much going to move, that first hour and last hour every day, regardless of what's going on. When you're after a specific buck, a big mature buck that's lived to be 4, 5, 6 years old, they just don't make mistakes very often, And on those days where that moon is peaking right at prime time, or within a couple hours of, before or after sunset, it's just the best way I can describe it. I think it's just that natural push that they can sense, like the barometric pressure or a storm coming. It's that push for them to get up and move, when normally that buck's going to lay there until dark because he knows that's a safe thing to do, But on that night where it's hitting right at prime time, he's laying there in his bed. He's got the wind that he wants to get up and move early to feel safe. And then that extra push from that gravitational pull hitting right at prime time when he wants to move anyway. It's just that extra nudge. Just like if you had a weather front coming in, cooler weather or a storm coming, they can sense that coming and they get up a little bit earlier. We're not talking about some huge migrational movement pattern. Sometimes the difference of killing a buck and not killing a buck is him getting up just a couple minutes early, and they might not be moving more than 100, 200 yards from where they're bedding to where they're feeding. So we're not talking about this huge change in their pattern. It's just a few minutes and a few yards, that makes a difference in you being able to get a crack at him or not. So it's just everything lining up at prime time when they normally would want to move anyway.
Yeah. I think that's interesting to hear, because I think a lot of guys, they hear your name, they hear the moon guy, they hear the red moon. Everyone just throws the assumption at it, in my opinion, without getting to know the situation. Oh, they're just going based on the moon. That doesn't work. The moon doesn't affect them. Yet you're here saying that the moon isn't the only piece of the puzzle. It's the extra push. I think that's some clarity that I think a lot of the public doesn't have in regards to the red moon and how the moon affects deer. It's not a religion. It's that little extra piece to the puzzle that, yep, I think I'm going to get up and go eat now.
It's just adding sprinkles to the ice cream. You know what I mean? It's just that little extra piece. Yeah. I mean, that's what if it was as easy as looking at a moon, then everybody killed big deer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's a constant factor that you consider combined with a wind shift or weather change or whatever it may be. But yeah, there's definitely something to it, right? Look at, like you said, his wall doesn't lie.
Well, and to that point, I sat at a dinner table with Jeff Lindsay and some of his buddies in Illinois last year. And the one guy was talking about, he's like, I was off the moon thing, but now that I'm using the trail cameras and going back and mapping it and tracking it and seeing when deer are moving and seeing kind of the moon phase, I'm back into the moon concept again, like you said, giving them that extra push to move. And
it's just another tool, It if it was easy, everybody'd be stacking up big deer every year. It's just not, and you really have to stack the deck in your favor with everything that you can. And I mean, like I said, I've been hunting 45 years, and I'm still learning stuff from guys every year. Once you think you know it all, you're going to have your ass handed to you. And it's happened to me more than once, but
yeah, it's probably my favorite, get my ass whipped. Yeah.
You're pretty good at it.
Oh man. Like you think you got one figured out, and you're like, he's bedding over here. Like, there's no way. I even turn my camera on video mode. Like, he's bedding over here. And then I text Clayton, I killed this deer last year, but I was like, man, he might be coming off the riverbank. Like, nah, he wouldn't do that. Like, why would?
He would. You can't get to him there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea because he did. I mean, I ended up getting it, but like, you just think you got him figured out, and then the next thing you know, somehow just by pure luck, he comes from the opposite direction that you planned on, and you're like, what the heck? Like, how did I even get in here without him knowing? Like, you just got lucky. I got lucky, but
Twice.
I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, guys.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Or so you said you like getting your butt whooped, Jay. I get my butt whooped by Jay. That place in Ohio, we had a 160-something inch deer over there, and he had already tagged out, and we had a tack cam over there. It was his, and he texted me. He's like, that big deer's in there. You better get over there. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm scrambling to get my stuff ready to drive over there in the morning. I get over there. He texts me. He's like, I didn't change the name on the camera. Sorry, that big deer was on my Kentucky farm. Not the picture. The background looks the same at night. My bad.
I'm not like Clayton's the tech guy. I put them out there, and then usually I can tell. I'm like, I know where that's at. Like, I don't rename them. I'll pull one. It might say my grandma's. It's not even at my grandma's farm. I don't know where it's at.
Right.
But I don't. He's better. He's organized. I'm not. That's just the way it is.
I don't know if I'd say organized, but so here's a way to sum up what we just talked about. I thought about it. So for argument's sake, let's just say there's 3 factors that can affect a big buck on a given day. Your odds of killing him are really not that great if you only got 1 of 3 factors going. But if you got 2 of those 3 factors going or more, that's when you need to be in your stand. And moon, barometric pressure, wind direction, like all those are factors. So when you get the overwhelming odds on the factors, you're not going to ever have them all. I mean, you might, but that's when you need to go in and hunt. I think that's a good way to sum it up for people.
Yeah. First, like I said, first thing is normally the wind. The wind's the number one thing, and if I can get the wind and the moon, or the wind and the weather, that's when I'm going to go in. If you got all 3, you got to move mountains to be in your kill spot. And other than that, I've normally got a trail camera set up somewhere close to my stand. I mean, that's why my stand's there. That's why the camera's there. So I know when they're coming through it. And if you catch a big deer making a mistake and moving during daylight, I don't care what those 3 factors are doing. If he's moving, you got to get aggressive and go in and kill him. So I'm not just sitting at home waiting for a red moon. I've had a lot of guys say, well, if you only hunt on the red moon, then you're going to kill everything on a red moon. Well, I hunt every day. But I would say, well, let me correct that. I'm in the woods every day during season. I might not be hunting per se. If I don't have those factors lined up, I might be in an observation stand.
I was just about to say that.
200 yards away, watching that area develop, or on a different farm. I don't hunt my kill stands. I don't hunt them unless I've got 2 of those 3 factors lined up, or a big deer making a mistake in daylight on camera. Then I'll dive in, and that's happened to me before, where just a buck shows up before dark, and he's making a mistake, and you got to dive in and kill him no matter what's going on. So, but yeah, I like to have at least 2 lined up, 3. Doesn't happen very often, but when it does, that's when shit gets bloody. So,
well, and those are factors that are out of your control. You've obviously preseason taken care of the factors that are in your control, like access to your stand, et cetera, all that stuff that people don't really think about or they get lazy on. It's like, I'm not gonna worry about it. Well, dude, you're already putting forward all this time and effort and money to this. You might as well go 110%. Don't cut a corner.
That's right.
You can't kill big deer cutting corners. I mean, yeah, you can. You get lucky. You can kill them with a rifle, but bow hunting, it's
not
hard.
consistently.
No.
Yeah. I got a quick question for you, Adam. You talk about fronts and winds and stuff. This is personally what I've noticed, like an east wind. Like, I love hunting an east wind, and I don't really like. So my theories, which are not scientific or anything.
You mean you're not scientific, J. Conrad?
No, not at all. Whatever. Anyways, back to the important stuff. Like, I think an east wind is obviously, it's also associated with a post front. Usually you get a northeast or an east wind, post front, high pressure. Like, usually those go hand in hand. So there's your weather factor. And then you get an east wind, and I don't think they prepare well for an east wind. I don't think a big buck. I'm not saying he's not prepared, but they don't. All summer we don't get east winds really. But then you get that first October, late September cold front where you get a northeast or an east wind, and it's just an odd wind for a deer, right?
So it's something they're doing 25% of the time instead of 75%. So they're not as.
I bet we
habitual.
don't even get an east. I bet we don't even get an east wind 25% of the time. I bet it's like 10%. You get a straight east.
Yep.
And I just think, like, I've killed several deer in the mornings, obviously followed high pressure cold front on east winds. Like, I don't know if you've noticed anything about an east wind. That's just one of my things. Like, I really like an east wind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there will be certain rare occasions, like a rare wind, rare weather pattern that can kind of put a deer at a disadvantage, because they're not used to it. It's not normal for them, and instead of maybe doing the safe thing, just laying there, they're up and moving, and it's they're kind of getting caught with their guard down because it's different. So
yeah, it's just something a little off for them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when you wake up and you're groggy in the morning. You're not as on your game. You're not paying attention as much, I think.
Like, if I woke up on time, that would be off.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about it like that from the deer's perspective. Like, it's different.
I just think they might, like, I shot one at like 11 o'clock on October 4th in the morning, you know what I mean, on an east wind, like, and I felt like he couldn't get into a bed he liked, you know what I mean? He was just wandering. He wasn't feeding really. He was just moving from a power line out of there to trying to get behind me, but he didn't. But I just feel like stuff like that, like a wind change, like wind shifts, like you're hunting, you got a south wind and all of a sudden it spins 180, which is hard to time, right? You know what I mean? You're trying to get in there like right as it's happening because you're assuming the deer's probably going to move or switch beds, maybe, not all the time, but you play like like you're saying, a fine line with that wind. Like, you hunt a slide off wind is what I gathered. Like, it's kind of a cross wind, but a little in your favor. But the deer thinks he's got it because he's kind of cutting around there. Mm-hmm. But just like little things like that, it's just real little bitty things like that makes a huge difference in the woods. I mean, just from what I've noticed.
It's always those little minute details that seem to make a huge difference in it. If you think about it, if a buck has normally got a southwest wind that he uses to get into his bedding area, to scent check his bedding area every morning, and then all of a sudden, after 4 months, you throw him a curveball and he's got the complete opposite wind, it makes you wonder how a deer really reacts to that, because do they really have a thought process to that? I mean, you think all they can really do is react to it. So how's he gonna react to that? And if he's not used to it, it could make him really vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you wonder how a lot of what they do is reactionary and instinctual. How intelligent they really are.
Yeah.
Well, they're good at staying alive.
Yeah.
But that's instinctual and reactionary, though. I smell something funny, I'm not going that way anymore, turning around, it's a reaction.
Yeah.
It's ingrained in them when they're born to, go with the wind in their face, or however they can catch the wind from wherever their destination is that day. Yeah, that's interesting to think about. Never thought about it like that. But yeah, like, so you talked about minute details. I had a deer, it was like early November, and it was mid 70s for like 4, 5, 6, 7 days straight, whatever it was. We had a day of like 20-mile-an-hour winds, and the day before this deer showed up in daylight, I didn't have anything set up where he was at. So the next day when it was 20-mile-an-hour winds, I said, it's hot, it's 20-mile-an-hour winds, I'm going to go in there with that high wind, do what I need to do to get the stand ready, because the wind will help cover my noise, and I'm going in there next morning. Well, the temperature only dropped like 5 degrees, but that's all I needed to kill that deer. I knew he was, like you said, deer's up on his feet in daylight, making a mistake, you do something about it. You get in there, you get aggressive, and that's exactly what I did. The 5-degree temperature change was all it took. It was something just a little bit different.
Yep. It's all those little details, man.
Yeah, because we all look for the giant cold front, but sometimes that's not what kills them.
Hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say we lost you.
I'm coming back. Oh, I'm sorry.
See? Not tech savvy. He can't even work his iPhone.
You're lucky I got one.
We're going to be hailing you with a Australian Outback boomerang call or something?
I'd throw that thing in the river if I didn't need it.
You rely on it too much to use maps to scout.
I'm not a huge map guy.
Are you, Adam?
Yeah, when it comes to like a topographical map and reading the contours, not so much. I'd rather actually be on the ground looking at it, firsthand.
I'm with you. Like, it might look awesome, but if it's not the right kind of cover or right kind of wood or what, you know what I mean? Like, it'll get you in the area, right? Like, you can see a bench or a saddle or a point or a thermal hub, but it doesn't mean there's deer there. I mean, it's got to be in the right kind of stuff you're looking for, which you're in Eastern Ohio, so you're hunting hill country, I'm assuming.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, but when you get down there to like Adams County, Peebles, what's that? Pike County,
Brown County.
There. Yeah, is it Scioto County?
Scioto?
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somewhere. You get down in those areas, you're hunting in the hills, and of course it makes it. I mean, it'll get you on ridges and whatever you need to get on and look at. But the hardest thing about hunting those areas is winds. The winds are crazy.
Yeah, I try to avoid those types of areas just because it's so difficult to hunt, with your wind and your thermals and
And a big thing like about thermals that you hear people like in the mornings they're rising, right? And they do rise. But people, if you get to your stand at 5 a.m. or 4:30, your thermals are falling, man.
They're still going down.
Yeah, if you look at the hourly on the weather forecast, the coldest it is right at daylight.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still falling, man. And like I learned that hunting those hills is like it's all right to get there at daylight, because if you get there
an hour
early,
after.
Yeah, if you get there early, the deer you're waiting to come up are smelling you, man. And you know what I mean? Like you just kind of have to. There's a thermal switch, which is like it's a wind shift, but like if you get there too early, you just fight. It's a fine line again. It's a minute detail, but like you've already blown them out, man. They already know where you're at on that ridge. They're not going to come by there. I don't know.
What do you guys look at when it comes to your wind forecasts?
Weather app?
Yeah, the thing I've found to be most reliable is Wonderground, but I also like it because it's in graph form on the 10-day.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
So that was one thing that my goal for this past year was to try to come up with the best wind mapping, wind forecasting out there, and I looked at every app I could find. I looked at every wind app that the fishermen use, and I actually found these wind particles, and I thought it was some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen, because instead of having just like a wind cone that shows what the wind's doing directly downwind of your stand, or having a flag, that shows the wind direction. I wanted to see how the wind moved across the whole property, and not on a weather page, but actually on the map of the farm that I'm hunting.
They have that for surfing. It's like a graph, and it has a billion arrows, and you can see minor shifts.
So that's what we added to the Moon Guide app this year, the wind particles.
That's sick. So does that take the contour into account, I guess, the terrain features?
Yep, and you can fast forward it, so for the next 24 hours you can see exactly what the wind's doing and where it's going and how it's shifting.
Okay, that's sick. I'm in. Because like you said, fishing. I live in Florida. I obviously prefer to live in Kentucky, but I'm here in Florida. My kids are in grade school. I'm not moving. Fishermen rely on that. Like a lot of the fishing maps have that. Is that where you picked it up from? Was the fishing guys, the fishing side? Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good feature.
I just got tired of switching around from the Moon Guide app to a different weather app just to be able to see what the wind was doing. And I think a lot of guys are really going to like that, because I think it's some of the best wind mapping available.
Well, and I think back to what we said about people putting a blanket statement on the red moon and assuming you only hunt the red moon. Same thing with the wind. It says whatever town you're in, the wind direction southwest. Well, that's a blanket statement. You can't do blanket statements whitetail hunting when you're relying on the wind that much to be successful. I mean, you got a pocket of cedar trees behind you, and the wind hits those, it's going to totally shift that direction of the way that scent goes as soon as it hits that wall of cedars.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's an awesome feature.
Especially around the rivers and in those hills. Like, there's spots that I hunt that it's always blowing east. And I don't care what the way it just rolls over in rotors around those hills and the way the river bends, it just always blows east. And it could be a northwest wind that's blowing east, right, in this spot. And then that milkweed's good to watch, because you can watch it go down and then it'll hit a thermal, it might rise, it might hit a creek drainage, and then all of a sudden it's going left. So just for like people are like, man, that deer was downwind of me. No, he wasn't. I mean, maybe you think he was, but he was not dead downwind of you, because he'd have smelled you.
Yep.
I mean, he'd have got a piece of you.
I had a situation last year where the spot I was hunting was right on the edge of a field, but right off the field it went up, real steep up a hill, and it didn't matter, what the wind direction was forecasted. It was never right. It was never right. And I found that sometimes this time of the year before season, it's great to get in those stands with different wind directions and use one of those smoke bombs to see what that wind is doing, because sometimes it doesn't matter what the forecast is based on the terrain. It could be completely different for the given spot that you've got. So I like to get in my stands before season for different wind directions, or for a wind direction that I think I really need, just to make sure the wind is doing what it's supposed to do. When it's blowing southwest, I need to make sure it's blowing southwest and not northeast.
Or blowing southwest long enough to get to where you need it to get before it turns.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we talked about, boots on the ground. I mean, you can do a lot with technology, but you still got to put yourself in the woods, man.
Yeah. And I set up, I talked about splitting hairs. Sometimes I actually, to give a buck the wind, you've got to set up to where the wind's actually blowing in the direction where you think he's going to come, or where you think you're going to get your shot, but you should have an arrow in him before he actually catches your wind. So, I mean, sometimes it's that close, to the wind being, completely wrong for you.
That app's going to be awesome. That should be money, dude. Have you mapped it out in a bunch of your spots to see how accurate it is? Yeah,
it's on the money. Really happy with it. Yeah.
Sweet. So what did you have to do to develop that?
So it's there's a lot to that. I actually built it, and then it had to be rebuilt because it didn't work the way that I wanted it to. But it's the guys that built this are the same guys that developed the facial recognition technology for the military. So I mean, they're as good as it gets.
Oh, so you went to the top dog.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's a huge investment, and to have to rebuild it with a different company cost an arm and a leg, but finally got it right. But yeah, it's it's way above my head, way above my pay grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
it's
cool.
nonstop because, with the phones changing and software updates, I mean, it's a constant deal year round trying to keep up with all the different phones and making sure everything works with all the different phones. Plus, you've got iPhone and Android, so you got two separate platforms that don't jive and mix together. So,
Does that come with, what is it? Is it $30 a year for the subscription?
25.
25. That's it.
Yeah, and that big difference between the Moon Guide and some of the other competitors, they charge a lot more for the nationwide, landowner data. Some of them you only get one state and you got to pay extra for additional states, and with the Moon Guide you get the entire, nationwide database for the same price.
So you've morphed that into it's a mix between like OnX or that's just one that everybody knows, or what's the other one? Clayton Hunt Stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're running the kind of same kind of deal.
Yeah, the Moon Guide stuff and the Red Moon is something that I've been following for 30 years. So I mean, that was really the mainstay for the Moon Guide app. But obviously, being a hunter and wanting to get your good weather information and your wind information and everything, I just got tired of going to multiple apps for everything. So I've really tried to put everything into the one app, and to make it as user friendly as possible. We're never going to be able to compete with Onyx when it comes to mapping, but we got great mapping, and you got the ability to mark, your trails and your stand locations and all that stuff. I mean, everything that you really need. Some of those apps have stuff that I would never even use. So
I'm in the same boat. I don't use it.
and confusing on top of that. But I mean, like I said, we're never going to compete with them with mapping. But when it comes to mapping, we got everything that you need on there. We got the parcel data. We got the Red Moon. I think we got some of the best, like I said, best wind mapping that you can get. So, and it's all the least expensive, of all of our competitors. So I tell guys it's the least expensive product you're going to buy all year, but it's some of the most valuable information you could have, really.
Yeah. Now, you doing that with the parcel data and all that and doing it as cheap as you are, is that kind of born out of the fact that, you're not hunting a giant piece of ground that you own and you're doing leases and smaller properties and stuff like that? Kind of, see, I guess you understand where a lot of guys are at with hunting and finances and small places in different states.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to know, when you're, scouting in the summer, watching deer, or you find a big deer, obviously the landowner data is really important, and then being able to see exactly where your property lines and boundaries are and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's all part of the deal, man. It's just information you got to have.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: when we talk about information, a lot of what you're hunting, is it lease ground, permission? I guess I shouldn't just reference right now. I guess over the years.
Most of my stuff's been permission, I just finally bought my own piece of ground 6 years ago that, where I live and I hunt here in Ohio. But I mean, I've been hunting the same areas in Illinois and Kansas for 20 plus years, with friends. I just don't do a lot of outfitter hunts, but yeah, I don't lease thousands of acres or anything like that. I'm of the opinion that I would rather have the right 5 acres than the wrong 500.
Yeah,
it's all about
100%.
location.
Yeah. You'd rather have 10 100-acre farms scattered than 1,000-acre farm together.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to grow big deer the bigger property that you have, but man, it's all about location.
So in that regard, when it comes to 200-inch deer, we'll call it the buzzword 200-inch deer. How did you find yours? Whether they just so happen to be on the property? I mean, because a lot of it now, from what I'm seeing, it has a lot to do with a money game, as far as finding a piece of property, paying the landowner a big chunk of change to hunt it, or owning a big piece of property that's 1,000 acres or more and you can grow them.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have deep pockets like a lot of guys where I can write a big check if I find a big deer, you know. But it's all the deer that the 200-inch deer that I've killed, 3 in Ohio were. First one was one that I had been hunting for a few years. The next 2 were deer that I'd found, you know, and gotten permission to hunt close to them. My biggest one, the one out in Kansas, was a deer that we had no history of. He just happened to show up on, you know, an adjacent farm to where I'd been hunting forever on camera. And, you know, I actually had, I think, 3 or 4 guys hunt that farm before I got there. I just waited till I knew the red moon was coming up. Deer was only showing up on camera in the middle of the night, so there was no reason to rush out there. And as he was gradually getting closer and closer to that red moon, I knew that's when I needed to be there. Went out the first week of November, and like I said, it was brutally hot, and I was seeing 1 or 2 deer a day. I mean, they just were not moving. But end of the week, when that red moon finally came around, he made a mistake and killed him. So
Yeah. I mean, would you say a lot of the 200s you're seeing killed now, it is kind of a money game? Would you agree with that?
it's definitely happening.
Yeah.
People are on to the value of what those deer are. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard on some, I'm not gonna say any names, but on some podcasts. Well, I mean, they've openly have admitted, like, you know, this farmer had a 200-inch deer and they could hunt it. I mean, you can hunt it for the right amount of money. You can hunt it, like then honestly, if the guy has a 200-inch deer, he's probably a hunter, and he knows. I mean, if I had a 200-inch deer, you ain't got enough money. You know what I mean? That's just like I'm hunting it, but like if somebody, you know, that's just turning into that. Like, and I know some outfitters that I've heard stories of, like they got a big one, like, but you can't hunt. You know what I mean? You can if you want to write another check or whatever, you know. And I want a guy to deer hunt. I was at work and the guy's like, hey, they're doing a raffle for this deer hunt. I won it somehow. I don't know. So I go to that. I actually called. It was in Ohio, Southern Ohio, Southeast Ohio or whatever. And I get there and I was like, this is a racket. Like, this is ridiculous. There's like 45 dudes here. And like, they're like, you go hunt this stand. Like, I walked past 2 dudes going to mine. I was like, this is just, I can't handle it. And I ended up calling Clayton. He's like, well, where are you at? And I told him, he's like, well, I got at least like 8 miles down the road. And I just asked the guide, I was like, hey, can I just stay here? Like, I don't even want to, like, no offense. Like, I'm just going to go hunt, you know, a different farm. And, of course, they don't care. I mean, I won the hunt. It's not like they're going to get anything out of me. And I went down there. I went and walked it one day in the afternoon. And the next morning I killed a pretty nice buck, 140-inch, you know, 140-inch deer off of there. But it's just like, I just don't like it. I don't like doing it. It's not for me. You know, you like doing it yourself, you know.
Yeah.
You know how to kill the deer. I just need the access. The access is probably the biggest thing, right? Trying to gain access to that kind of area.
Yeah, that's getting to be the toughest part of the game anymore is access.
Especially in Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio's made its name for big deer. The other tough part of the game, like if you want to talk about growing a big deer, is like you're in states like Ohio and Kentucky, the parcel sizes are smaller, so you got more guys hunting the same deer herd.
Right. Yeah.
You get those weekend hunters, especially in Kentucky's gun season, they'll shoot about anything, and it's like, whew. It makes it hard. Yeah,
corn piles kill a lot of big deer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, with that being said, what's your take out Iowa, because you got we'll just
take
call
out
it
Ohio too, though.
We'll call it an aberration. What's your state you like the best if a guy's really trying to kill a giant, let's just say a 200-inch deer?
Well, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I'd probably said Kansas, but the pressure there is getting to be, well, I drew Kansas every year for 20 years, and anymore it's like you're lucky to draw every 2 years, maybe 3 years. So a lot of increased pressure there. But if I only had one place to go outside of Ohio, it'd be Canada, just because the less pressure. I just love it up there.
Yeah, I've never gotten to do that one.
Now, when you mentioned Alberta, now when you go up there, are you hunting the early season up there? Or are you hunting the later season? What's your?
I've done it all, early, late, mid-season. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I have a preference, because if you're right on top of a big one early, they're really killable. But man, the way they move in November up there, because they just it can be crazy up there in the rut. October, I've had some great luck in October up there too. It just all depends on the specific deer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people everyone gets their week or two of vacation. Of course, people want to go hunt the rut. But as far as a deer being killable, and specifically a big one, early season or late season on a food source is about as predictable as they get.
Yep, absolutely.
So
The rut is fun, though. It's just fun to be out there.
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when have you killed most of your big deer? Oh, I mean, obviously you've killed them all times a year, but if you had to pick one time, it'd seem like
last week of October has been my best week.
Catching them on scrape lines or what?
Just catching them being just a little bit more active while they're still on a strict feeding pattern. They still haven't really gone off their daily pattern, traveling, looking for does, right before everything really gets cranked up. They're still on that strict pattern where they're really patternable, really killable, doing the same thing every day. They're just still doing it in that small area, as opposed to November when you never know where they're going to be,
So there you go again. You got multiple factors adding up.
Got to stack the deck in your favor.
Yep. Combination is key.
Yep.
So, yeah. What states do you think are underrated for killing big deer, if any, anymore? I mean, dude, with social media, everything's so publicized now, it's hard to...
Indiana's really coming around since they've changed their regulations on 2 deer or 2 bucks. I think they're probably at the top of the list right now on the number of Boone and Crockett deer coming out of one state.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what would happen with a state like Oklahoma if it did that, especially that northern part of Oklahoma, just south of Kansas.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of big deer in Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's kind of underrated for big deer, or overlooked, I should say.
Yep, a lot of big deer down there.
It's very similar to Kansas, though.
Mm-hmm. See, we live in a perfect area because we could hunt Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana fairly easy. I can be 20 minutes. I can be in Ohio or Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So the only gripe I have with Indiana is they're tag specific out of tags. They used to be. I haven't bought a tag in a while, but used to be you buy an archery buck tag. And I think you can buy like a combined season, like all weapon, but I think it's pretty high dollar for, $500. I mean, I consider that pretty expensive.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
But
no.
Switzerland County is probably the closest county, Dearborn or Switzerland. But they put out some pretty big deer, man.
Mm-hmm. It's a great spot.
What do you think's behind the increased number of 200-inch deer we're seeing killed now? You think it's because guys know more and they're passing them more? Do you think it's just deer genetics over the course of the last 30 years?
Combination of better deer management, guys letting deer grow. Everybody's doing the best that they can with the property that they have. So habitat, food, everything. Just combination of a lot of things, I think.
Yeah, because it's obviously becoming more and more commonplace, like we've talked about. So,
I still wouldn't say killing a 200-inch deer is common at all.
It's not common, but it's more publicized.
Yeah. Like
I said more commonplace. I didn't say it's common.
I don't want people to get discouraged. Like the chances of you seeing a 200-inch deer are unless you got to be. It's not like you're going to ever grow. You may have a farm for 100 years and manage it, and you might never get one.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like genetics, age, structure, food, whatever. Because there's all kinds of things, but mostly genetics. Like the deer's got to be able to get that big. He's got to have it in his genes. Like you see like all the time, like 5-year-old 8-pointers that are 115 inches. I mean, they're just a big bully deer, but they got nothing, right? And we talked to that deer guy that farms deer, and I mean, that's a lot of it's genetics, but it's hard to manage genetics because a doe carries 50% of them, and we can't tell which doe it is, right?
Yep. Yep. A lot goes into it, and they're not on every farm, but I think you just, because of social media, you hear about them more often these days than you used to.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of old timers that have a basement full of giant deer that you're never going to hear a lick about because they want it that way.
Right.
I mean, they want to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
I just want to see one, you know? I think I had one on camera once. I think he might have been. He's close, man. He's big.
Oh, I filmed that one with Jeff Lindsay last year in Illinois. That's probably the closest I'll ever get to doing it myself.
Well, you just gotta like imagine what that looks like when you see one like that. Like, it almost looks fake. It looks probably like the dog on Grinch when they tied antlers to its head. You know what I mean? Like a deer carrying around something like that. It's just gotta be a sight. Like, you wonder how they get around the woods. Like, it's gotta be inconvenient.
I'll tell you what, man, there's nothing like it. When you see a deer like that you know is that big, and getting within bow range of an animal that's been around for that long, it's just there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. And that's why you got to do everything in your power to put yourself in the right place at the right time and make sure that you're dialed in. I tell guys all the time, man, you gotta don't practice until you get it right. You got to practice until you can't get it wrong, because when it comes down to an opportunity at a buck of a lifetime, you're only going to get one, maybe. And if you do, you got to be able to take advantage of it, because they will bring your weakest link right to the top of the water, every time. It's always those little details that make the biggest difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I filmed that one with Jeff last year. I got to enjoy it, but I didn't really get to enjoy it because I'm looking at it through the camera. He's like, there's the 200. And it's like, next thing I know, I'm just looking at a camera screen the whole time. You don't get to actually look out there and look at it. And like, wow, like, because I got a job to do, right? Like, my job is to film this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather shoot it.
Yeah, so would I, but
I mean, but think about
what am I going to call
it,
Jeff and
really
be like, hey, you got a 200-inch deer. Can I go shoot that thing instead of you?
Well, no, I'm just thinking about, like, what if you didn't hit record, man? Like, you're going to be the worst person in the world.
Oh,
like,
100%.
It was out of focus. Like,
It's got to be second nature.
I just think it'd be more stressful to film that deer for me, to me, than, like, being the guy to shoot it. Like, you know what I mean? I'd feel way more comfortable shooting it than, like, oh my gosh, I can't mess this up for this guy. If I miss, it's me, right? It's my fault. But, like, if I didn't have it focused, I would feel...
Well, so how do you think Adam feels? He self-films a bunch.
I feel like I commend him for that, because it's a total pain in the butt. And a lot of people don't realize that, like, carrying all that stuff in and out and all the extra movement.
It's a lot like work, and if you're going to try to do it, I promise you it's going to end up costing you a deer at some point in time. It will. It's cost me more than one big deer, but it's commitment, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
What got you into that?
I just, as soon as video cameras came out, I was just ate up with deer hunting and filming, and I started freelancing for a company and just kind of snowballed from there. Yeah,
because I'm starting to self-film again, but I quit doing it like 8 years ago, because it's like you said, it's a commitment, and I always feel like you're either half hunting and full filming, or full-time hunting and half-time filming, and it's like I like totally committing to one thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dabble in it again and see what happens, but it is not easy, man.
That's true.
I've had a couple deer where I'm like, well, I'm not beholden to a TV show or sponsors or anything. I'm not filming this deer. I'm killing him. He's going to die. I don't care about the footage.
Right.
The one advantage you have, though, is if you do make a bad shot, you got something to go back and look at.
Yeah, for sure.
Which can be a huge game changer. Have you had that help you at all in the past with a shot? It's like, man, I don't know, this blood trail's not what I was expecting, and you were able to kind of go back and analyze?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely helps being able to look at the footage and review it on a big screen, because with all that stuff going on in the tree, man, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what happened because it happened so fast.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we were sent something recently. Graham's not on with us today because he's out. They're playing the Dodgers right now. But there's a guy came on a podcast. He was talking about if you wound a deer, you're better off pushing it than backing out because it'll basically help prevent clotting and get to the point where that deer like eventually wants to stop and you can get another shot. What are your thoughts on that?
I know what he's talking about because I ran into that situation where I hit a deer and every time he laid down he stopped bleeding, and I was actually with Andre DeQuisto, the guy that owns Lone Wolf Tree Stands, and he's like, we got to keep pushing this deer and just bleed him out. And fortunately we were on a big farm where we didn't have to worry about him crossing a fence and getting away from us, and yeah, we kept pushing him and finally bled him out and he couldn't go any further. Could never get close enough for a follow-up shot, but we just kept pushing him, and yeah, it did work because every time he lay down, he quit bleeding. So there's definitely something to that, but you got to have the perfect scenario for that.
Yeah.
So what was your perfect scenario? Yeah, like where was the hit?
It was in the neck.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So a muscle hit that probably clipped the artery, didn't sever it, but you got to keep pushing. So if you gut shoot them, obviously we're not going to do that. We're going to wait. A liver hit, you could probably wait, but I did the same thing to a deer, and it was in the cavity, low, but it was in his cavity, and I told Clay, I tracked this deer, and he was bleeding, and then he'd stop, but I kept pushing him, and the only reason I knew he's still alive is because I drove up a logging road to track him at night. This isn't dark, and there was a mud puddle, and then we made a huge loop. It was like a mile. And then we got back to that mud puddle, and there's blood in the mud puddle. So I was like, this sucker's still alive. Like, he's just right out in front of us. But my flashlight died, and we've pushed him a long way. And I came back the next morning and found him, like, dead. Didn't lay down and die. Like, he just ran out. And so, once again, like everything with deer hunting, pushing them, there's a lot of, depends on where you hit them, right? Like, just like everything else, it's situational. Everything's situational. Would I shoot a deer in the pouch and go kick him around? No.
Right.
I would wait and come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Typically, it's within 100 yards. If I hit one, you got to read the blood. That's just something you can't. It's just you got to do it, man. Like some of the stuff we can talk about, but until you see it and do it, then you're like, I see what's going on here. You recognize it. The ability to learn that from that, and you're gonna push one and not find him. Maybe you just hit him in the muscle. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's not gonna. You shoulder blade one, he's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Andre, Lone Wolf. How mobile are you when you hunt? Do you kind of have everything pre-mapped out, or do you find yourself a decent bit like making micro adjustments, like maybe moving your stand like 40 yards within a spot so that you can hit the spot within the spot?
What was the question?
So you talked about Andre from Lone Wolf, and like the reason I'm saying Lone Wolf is because it's a pretty light stand, so it's easy to move around. Mm-hmm. With your deer stands, are a lot of them, most of them set, and that's kind of where you're going to hunt, or do you find yourself micro adjusting and maybe moving a stand 40 yards within season, depending on what a deer's doing?
My stuff at home is set, but when I'm traveling, I'm always moving stuff around, tweaking stuff, moving a little bit here and there. Yeah. And that is a really nice stuff, or a really nice point on when it comes to their equipment, because there's not a lot of equipment out there that you could do that with. I mean,
unless you want to climb into a saddle.
I did a hanging hunt with hang on and 4 sticks for one of the biggest deer I've ever killed, and went in, hung the stand, and killed that buck that night. And he was bedded 80 yards from me. Watched him get up out of his bed and come right to me. And I mean, you just can't get away, with that kind of deal with just any equipment. I mean, it's just got to be deadly quiet, and that their stuff is the best on the market, and that's the only thing I've ever about the only thing I've ever used. Can't say that I've never used another stand, but 98% of the time that's what I've used, and I've no reason to switch.
So he was bedded 80 yards from you.
Yep.
How quiet and slow did you have to go to get that hung?
I'm sure you can imagine what that was like. Yeah, had no idea he was that close, and fortunately I was super cautious. But that was something to see a 206 inches. Watch him get up out of his bed and come right to me, and it just man. quite a night.
Is that the one you took a picture in the cornfield?
No, it wasn't corn.
Or some kind of field.
CRP field, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I use them, and I kill a lot of deer. Like, I got stands hung on my farms that I can hunt, but they're kind of like just rut stands, or they're in a general area where deer usually are. But then when you find a deer, you got to go get them. Like, you got to go to them. Like, you went right to him. You got right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But I call it hang and bang. I hang and bang a lot. Like, I'll get in a tree this big because it's the only tree, if that's what I got to get in. I mean, you got to get where the deer are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a situation here I got to get to, you guys. I hate to do this to you.
Oh, it's all good. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it again. Let's get together here sometime this fall.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. We appreciate your time, Adam. It was great talking to you. Let's get together again and do this more.
Yeah, appreciate the invite. And like I said, let's catch up here this fall sometime and see what everybody's doing and go talk about it and take it from there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, man. Good luck. Good luck down in Kentucky.
You too.
All right, bye.